Hello. So initially, I was going to do this video just about picking your needle when it comes to different projects and the different sewing needles, but I didn't feel like there was quite enough to say about that. So in addition to picking your needle, I am also going to show how to use a twin needle and how to thread it. So if you need to know that, stick around. I will have chapters and timestamps in my description so you can find what you're looking for if any part of the video is not what you're looking for. So I hope you enjoy. I've heard that some people are confused about picking out your needles because there is quite a selection of needles when you go to the store to start your project. But it's actually really simple to pick them out. You're going to base your needle on the type of material that you're using. So for instance, this is for vinyl needles. So this needle is going to be best used when using a vinyl or a sticky material. This one's for jeans, etc. The universal needle is generally acceptable for just about any kind of woven fabric that you're going to use. An important thing to remember though, if you're making clothing and you want to use a stretch material, you want a ballpoint, a jersey, or a stretchy needle, like a needle that's labeled for stretchy materials. But other than that, picking your needle is basically just figure out what kind of material you're using and get the corresponding needle. Schmidt's does have a guide on their website how to find the right needle, and I will link that in my description, but there's really not a whole lot to say about it. You basically just, as I said, pick according to your materials. Now, when it comes to pins, there's good ways to pick your pins. So if you're stitching something or you're working with something that will scar, you're going to want a fine needle or an ultra fine needle, or sometimes it's called a silk needle, but it's a really thin needle and it has flex to it. They bend really easily, so they're not good for all your projects. They're basically just good for materials that will scar. For your standard project, you will want like a medium length needle, and they're stiffer. I think they're called glass ball needles or glass needles. But they are like this. I don't know if you can see that very well, but they have a stiffer quality to them, so they're not going to bend. And I apologize for the wind. It's just, I'm trying to get free air conditioning. But they don't bend as much as the fine needles. So you would want those for the majority of your projects. If you're doing something thicker, like an upholstery fabric, you're going to want like a T-head needle. Those are a lot thicker and they're going to hold that thicker material more sturdily. So that's how you pick out your pins and your needles. But I have links in my description for both of those. Schmidt's has the picking out of your needle, and I found a guide on Craftsy, CRAFTSY, craftsy.com, on how to pick out your sewing pins. So when it comes to picking out needles for using for hand stitching, there's not as broad of a selection. So basically you're going to either need something big like this for upholstery or leather or heavy fabrics, or you're going to need something smaller like this for hand stitching, which this has different sizes in it. The medium ones are your standard, you're going to use it when you do hand stitching, but the shorter ones are for more fine stitching. So if you got to make really tiny stitches, you get more control with those small ones. Basically, the bigger the needle, the less control you have. So I hardly ever use the long needles. Those are for heavier duty fabric. And then you've got your twin needles. There are a few different types of twin needles. They make them for jeans. They make them for top stitching. You've got the universal stretch, and then you've got your just standard universal. So basically same principle. You're going to pick out the needle according to the fabric that you're using. How heavy is the fabric? How much force is it going to need? How sturdy of a needle is it going to need? But most of them are labeled in a pretty comprehensive way. So you should be able to pick it by looking at the actual needle packaging. So that is that. And I will show you now how to use a twin needle. So I'm just going to show you how to change your needle. You're going to take your tool. Mine looks like a winder, but sometimes they come with one that looks more like a screwdriver. And you're just going to turn your screw counterclockwise just a smidge so that it's loosened. And then you're going to use your hand to unscrew the needle enough that your needle will come out. And then you're going to make sure your thread is not in the way when you are replacing your needle. So first I was stitching with the universal twin needle, and this is my stretch twin needle so that you can see the differences on the fabric. And so the way you replace the needle is you are just going to take that needle from its package, and your screw should already be loose, and you're going to stick it right up in the hole until it's firmly up there. Then you're going to screw it back down, and you will generally use your little tool again to tighten the needle so that it doesn't come loose. I missed that step when I was doing this because I've actually had the needle fall out while I was sewing before, so make sure you tighten that down. So we're going to thread our machine. We will use our primary thread and go through all of the steps that it requires to thread this machine. Mine has a numbered system that you just follow with the thread. So we're just going to loop it through all of those twists and turns so that the tension is correct. That is why it requires your thread to go in a certain direction. So there's a little hook looking thing right above your needle, and you're going to pass your thread through that. You should be able to slip it around it. And then once you get that thread through that little hook, you are going to, I'm trying to point to it there, it's hard to see, but you're going to take that primary thread and you're going to thread it through the left needle. So that's just going to go through that left needle. And then pull it over to the side so that it's out of the way. Make sure that it doesn't loop around your other needle. That will cause a tangle. So we're going to take that second thread and put it through all the same twists and turns as our first thread. And then again, when we get to the bottom, you're going to put it behind that same hook. And then you're going to thread your second thread through the right needle. And mine looped there. I had to mess with it to get it unlooped, but you don't want your thread looped around your needle You just want it passing through the needle. And then I'm just going to change my bottom bobbin because I am making my threads all different colors so that you can see each thread when I do the stitches. So I place my bobbin in. There is like a little metal. I was trying to show you how to thread it. It's hard to see, but there's like a little metal hook. You hook it around. And then you push your thread over to the side. There is a guide on my machine that shows how to do it. Replace your lid with the string sticking out. And then you are going to hang on to those top threads, pass your needle down into the machine and back up. That will pull up that bottom bobbin thread, and then give a slight tug on the thread. And it'll pull it out that hole, and then I use something to pull it out because it never comes out quite. It just kind of sits there. But that is how you thread your machine, or at least my machine. So here we're just going to stitch with some regular weave cotton, just quilting cotton. But I'm going to do the straight stitch. I have my machine on the -3 tension because if I have the tension any tighter, it causes more bubbling between the stitches. But you just load your fabric and press your foot pedal, and these are the stitches you get. So here you can see I did the 3 different colors so that you could see the thread more clearly, but there are my 2 rows of stitches from the twin needles, and then if I flip over the fabric, you can see on the back how the 3rd thread is weaved between the 2 other threads, the threads from the top. So the blue thread is the one weaved between them on the back, and that is what your back stitches look like. And there you have it. But I'm going to sew with the stretch material. This is a jersey knit 98% cotton, 2% elastic. So it's got stretch to it. And I am using the stretch twin needle. And I've already threaded it all, so you just press your foot down and start stitching. But I actually prefer to make sure that I am using a tension of -3 on my machine, because when I use my auto tension or anything lesser than the -3, I get a large bubble between the twin stitches. You can kind of see it here. This is on the on the -3, but it is less than if I used one of my other tension settings. I have tried them all. And that stitch was number 2 on my machine, which actually is made for elasticy materials. So it has more stretch to it than a straight stitch. So now I am changing it to the straight stitch, and I will show you comparatively these 2 stitches. So this is my regular, that is the back of the elastic stitch. That's the front. And then this is a straight stitch. Same thing, choose your stitch, put your foot down, start sewing. And then this is what your straight stitch looks like with the twin needle. And I used different colored threads so that you could see each individual thread in the stitch. But that is straight versus the elastic stitch. It does still have some stretch to it, but that's the back of it. It doesn't have as much stretch as the elastic stitch, but it is smoother looking. So it is your choice which one you're going to use. next week I plan on doing a video on how I do my maintenance on my sewing machine. Mine is a electronic sewing machine, so it has buttons to select your different stitches and make adjustments, whereas a mechanical sewing machine has knobs. I don't have one of those. I'm trying to find somebody that does have one so that I can show how to do that. But I do have some video of me blowing the thread into a old 1980s sewing machine that is no longer made anymore. I have a friend that has one, and she asked me to come over and thread it for her because she couldn't remember how. So I came over and we figured it out. But I will be posting that also. I don't know if I'll put it in the video where I'm doing the maintenance on my machine, or if I will make it a separate video. But I do have those planned projects coming up. And then going forward, I have projects that will be voted on. I did put up a poll last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, on which fabric I should use to make a Henley top. This is actually the pattern, but I'll be doing a short sleeve version, and I'm not going to put the hood on the Henley. But I still have the poll up. Since I only got 2 votes on it, I wanted to leave it up a bit longer. So if you want to vote on that, you can go to my community tab. And the way you get to that is you go to my channel, and it, I believe, has to be done on a laptop or phone or some kind of smaller device. I don't think you can get to it from the TV if you're streaming on a TV. But you go to my channel page, and then there are different tabs, and one is labeled community, and that is where I'm going to be putting my polls for future projects. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that I can create more content that you actually like. So my plan going forward is to do some more interactive type videos where you can help me pick my content. So I have occasionally been putting polls up on the community tab. If you want to have a say in my future videos, please go ahead and vote on the polls. And I will work on that going forward. I'm planning on doing some videos where you can actually download the free pattern from different websites and follow along on stitching or sewing different items, garments, different things. So if there's one you would like to try, please stick a comment in, because I will look at them and I will take them into consideration. But for now, that's all I have, and I hope you have a wonderful day.